In today's video, I'm going to be giving you reading recommendations that are spooky romantasy reads. So hi my fellow fantasy book lovers and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Kathy, I'm a fantasy book lover from Belgium, and on this channel I share with you reading recommendations, what I'm currently reading and much more. The vibe of today's video is a little bit different than the usual setup that I use, is because I am actually doing Halloween photo shoots in my studio, and right there next to me, just out of frame, is actually my coffin setup. So I thought it would be fun to include the lights and the candelabras in the background for once. This is not something I will be doing a lot. You might see it in one or two videos that I'm recording today, but it doesn't really affect the content of what I'm talking to you about. Now, to me personally, what is a spooky romantasy recommendation? It involves witches, warlocks, vampires, or dark magic. Those are the basic elements that I'm looking at whenever I give you these recommendations. If you're looking for other romantasy recommendations, there's another video on my channel that is linked in the description box and that you can also find here. Now I'm going to start with what is my current favorite romantasy series, and it is the Glimmer Falls series. This is written by Sarah Hawley, and each of these books feature a witch, a demon, a vampire. These are very heavily focused on the romantasy. The main plotline is of course there, but the romantasy takes the forefront. The first book is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. It's not one of the ones I'm holding up. The second one is this one, is A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, and then the final one that just released only a few weeks ago is A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. So in the first book we have a witch who has a spell going wrong that summons a demon in her kitchen, and they have a contract because she summoned him and she needs to be able to get through that, but of course they fall in love. In the second book we follow one of the best friends from the witch of book one, and in this book a demon, another demon, and the demon from book one actually suffers from memory loss, and he doesn't recognize her, but he's instantly in love with her and he tries to woo her. Eventually he gets parts of his memory back as well. And in the third book there is a werewolf who's the boss of the witch from book one, and on a drunk night after the wedding party of the witch from book one, he actually orders something on eBay. It's a ring apparently containing a vampire, and yeah, he gets the ring or the gem, he opens it, and suddenly there's a vampire with him, so he tries to help her to break the curse. These are very fun, airy reads. I think they're perfect for spooky season because they have that hint of magic and otherworldly things, and not everything is as easy in these books. The romance is really good, so I could highly recommend the Glimmer Falls series. And this author is currently also writing a Fae series that is starting hopefully very soon, which is also a romantasy series. Another recommendation that I have is Assistant to the Villain and Apprentice to the Villain. Both of these aren't really like dark and gloom and doom per se, but they are helping the villain, which to me definitely feels like a bit spooky. In book number one, we follow Evie Sage as she's wandering through the woods and then encounters the villain, who's actually hiding from the royal guard, and he drags her with him, and in exchange for her not spoiling where he lives, etc., she actually gets a job of her. Now, Evie currently doesn't have a job. She really needs one because her father isn't able to work, and she has a little sister that also needs to get fed, etc. So she decides to take the job working for the villain. So she becomes the assistant to the villain. And in book two, it continues on it. This is not pure romantasy. There is nothing actually happening. In book two, I think they maybe end up kissing a few times, but that's it. In book one, nothing spicy happens. So if you want to read this is a very funny book. This is hilarious. This is romantasy because there is like a romantic interaction between the two main characters. However, it doesn't get spicy. So know that before you start these. Before I get into my vampire reads, I have one or two Fae-based recommendations, and no, it's not Akotar. It's actually Mountains Made of Glass and Apples Dipped in Gold by Scarlett St. I really enjoy these books because they're short stories. There's gonna be 7 in total, I think, because there's 7 brothers. And in book 1, we follow one of those brothers, and in book 2, we follow a different one of those brothers. The brothers are all Fae princes. Their father, the king, has died, and they each got like one element to a bigger key that they should form together with all 7 pieces. But for now, none of them are actually king. In the first book, we follow a girl whose village is cursed, and every single curse needs a solution, and the village among themselves decide who is the solution to said curse. So one moment, one of the wells stops giving water to the village, and they decide that Gisela, the main character, needs to go into the well and get rid of the frog who's in the well, and that then the curse will be lifted. She doesn't even use this well. So the village has just been like, you need to solve this, and she needs to. So she actually solves the problem, gets rid of the frog, but then accidentally kills it, and that's when the book really starts happening. Now, I feel like most of these fairy tale retellings are a bit more dark and sinister, and that's why I feel they are the perfect spooky romantasy reads. I feel like these books are a bit heavier and a bit darker than most of the other recommendations, so know that before you start reading them. So the first one is Mountains Made of Glass, and then the recent release was Apples Dipped in Gold. And in Apples Dipped in Gold, we follow this girl who is working for her brothers, making sure they are fed, because her brothers are the only hunters able to go into this like haunted forest. Now she's actually getting quite abused by her brothers. They punish her, they beat her, etc. And one day she's outside of the house near the forest, and she encounters someone. That person decides he wants to marry her, get her away from her brothers, and he actually, gives them money so he can marry their sister. And on the way back to the castle, something happens. They get ambushed. The brothers are involved, and some other party is involved as well. So it is darker than most romantasy reads that I've read, but I do really enjoy them, and I think Scarlett St. is an amazing storyteller. And finally, the vampire-themed romantasy books. The first one is My Roommate is a Vampire, because obviously a vampire in the book. Now this is more urban fantasy, so low fantasy as we sometimes like to call it. So this book takes place in a normal world. We follow a girl who's looking for a new apartment because she's struggling to pay rent, and a vampire who has a big apartment who decides to rent out one of his rooms, but he doesn't really know how much to ask for it, so he severely undercharges, and the girl moves in there because it is severely undercharged, and she needs the money to be able to pay for other things going on in her life. Now, I did really enjoy this book. Is this the best romantasy book ever? No, but for the people who want a really slow burn build up of a romance book, then I think this would be perfect for you. So I think this slow burn romantasy read is perfect if you want a little bit of escapism but don't want those dark and doom and gloom vibes. So it's urban fantasy with a vampire. Up next, a series that I have to recommend, but if you have realistic standards for men in your life, take this with a big grain of salt, because the males in this series are all these tall, buff, extremely strong males, and let's just not talk about the names because I rolled my eyes more than once when reading this book. At the start of the book, the female main character, Beth, actually goes to a very traumatic experience. It involves sexual assault, so know that that happens at the beginning of the book and that it has like a severe importance in the rest of the book. So if you're not comfortable with that, then I would not recommend reading this series or starting this series. The male in this series are obviously vampires. There's also female vampires. You do get a lot more character depth than I first expected, but still, this is what I call a station romance. This is like something that you can get lost in, but I feel is not close enough to reality that I feel related to it, and not far enough from reality that it feels like a fantasy world. So for me, this is like an in-between read. I might pick up this series again in the future, but for now, I'm not really into it. But maybe it's something that you will enjoy. They have a lot of very strong alpha males, very over-caring even of their females. So if that's something that you enjoy, then these books might be for you. Let's end this video with one of the standalone books by Carissa Broadbent. Honestly, I could have taken any book by hers. They're all really amazing vampire-based romantasy reads. This one, Scorched Roses, is actually a novella that comes in between Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. So know that if you want to read the full series, this comes after book one, but it doesn't really affect any of the contents of book one. I love this book. This book is amazing. We follow Lilith, a girl who lives in a village that has been cursed, and she's been trying to find something to help with the curse because the curse is actively killing the people living there. They all get some sort of mystical disease that they cannot cure from. So she's trying to find a cure for this curse so she can actually save her sister. She's someone who is well trained, educated, so she's actually working on something, but she needs specific blood. She needs vampire blood to try and see if that helps with the curse. Now, there's only one vampire living in the vicinity of the village, and she goes to said vampire to ask him for 6 vials of his blood in exchange for 6 roses. And that is what starts the alliance between the vampire and the human girl. I personally love this book so much. I keep recommending it to everyone who wants to experience a little bit of fantasy romance, but then still with enough storyline that it's not like fluffy romance. So if you're into that, I could highly recommend this book. There is smut in it. Yes, there is. I think I gave this a 3 chili peppers out of 5. The romance and the interactions happen towards the second part of the book, but since it's not a super thick book, it is still very present. And of course, if you want more from this series after reading this particular book, know that there's already 3 other books out. So Serpent and the Wings of Night, Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and then end of this year, a new part of the series of the Crowns of Nyaxia is actually releasing, and I'm super excited for it. So these were some of my romantasy recommendations for this spooky season. They all have either darker magical themes or witches or warlocks, which is something that I really enjoy. Should you have other recommendations, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I love getting your recommendations, as I've been able to find some of my new favorite books through them. As always, all of the books that were mentioned in this video are linked in the description box down below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already and you'd like to be, you can of course also subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I would love to have you for every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!